How could you possibly say kill all the Jews?
Because it was in a time where the person who could say the most shocking thing, and that was the aura of the group.
Okay, so you wrote this apology to Harvard, and among other things, as Trace said, they said, you know, we appreciate the expression of regret and we appreciate your candor, but we're still not letting you in. And I find it interesting, among other things, that you also wrote to the Harvard Diversity Office.
Yeah.
And around this time, they apparently didn't know that Harvard was saying, we appreciate your candor, but we're rescinding your admission. The Harvard Diversity Office sends you a separate letter that says, basically, we accept your apology. This sounds heartfelt. So if the Diversity Office accepted your apology, essentially, why in the world did the admissions office rescind it?
I can't tell you. Some people are saying political bias. But I think one of the biggest things to look at is the state of academia right now. Is Harvard, for people who don't know, Harvard was founded in 1636 by slave owners. It has a long history of racism, sexism, misogyny. But I think that people can grow and people can change.
Right.
And I don't hold that standard to Harvard. And I think that people can make mistakes, and I don't think that mistakes make you irredeemable, as Harvard showed for me, as
Fair
Harvard
point.
established for me.
Can I give you a time out there? So you're mentioning that they had slave owners in the 1600s. You using the N-word was what, a year and a half ago? Do you
2 years ago.
2 years ago. A little more recent.
Okay.
I go back to my first question. How do we know you've really changed? What specifically, you went through an awful tragedy in Florida and have been hailed by some, and you should be, for your poise going through a tragedy that I can't even imagine. But what specifically has changed in you in the last 2 years that you would no longer write the N-word or say the N-word?
Well, it's because I've matured tremendously. It's that I no longer am in that friend group where we act immaturely like idiotic children. It's the fact that I've condemned racism every single opportunity that I've can in this public life that I didn't really ask for. You know, I never, quite frankly, wanted to be in this position. I'm not an entertainer, I'm not an actor, I'm a kid who went through a tragedy, who saw the suffering that his community went through and doesn't want to see it for any other community.
So what advice,
that's what I've been fighting for.
What advice would you give to the 16-year-old Kyle Kashuv now?
Say that again?
What advice would you give to your 16-year-old self now that you've had this point of reflection?
Well, I think I've changed tremendously from that kid. But to the past Kyle, I wish I could take back those comments. I can't. I'm extremely sorry for it. And as I mentioned before, forgiveness isn't given, it's earned. And I'm going to continue fighting to right this wrong, and reach out to the Office of Diversity and Inclusion because I felt like I had to, and I apologized immediately because I felt like I had to.
Sure.
Now, because it's not because I felt like I had to, because it was the right thing to do.
So people will be able to judge for themselves what they think about what you're saying, what you said then, and what you're saying now. We appreciate you taking the tough questions tonight. But what kind of standard do you think Harvard is setting now? One would assume that there are freshmen and sophomores at Harvard today who maybe said some dumb things when they were 16.
Look, I think that people can mature and people can change. And I really don't I don't hope we continue moving in this direction because I think the purpose of education is to assist people in their progression of growth and change. And I don't wish this onto anyone else. And there were like 5 or 6 other people in the Google Doc who said similarly heinous and outrageous things and egregious and terrible things. And I don't wish what happened to me to happen to them. I don't wish that.
Let's end this conversation with your future. As I understand it, once Harvard said you were admitted, you turned down scholarship money at places like George Washington University and other fine institutions, and I assume they've moved on and picked other people. What's next for you? What do you want to happen?
So the deadline for other colleges has ended, but all I can do now is I genuinely don't know. I don't know what's in. I don't know. But you know what happened with the academia right now is frightful. But I'm going to continue pushing for school safety because at the end of the day, the only reason why I'm here, the only reason why I'm talking to you today is what happened to my school on the 14th. And until every school, all I truly care about is that schools are safe. And